out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim. Good day to you, Ryan. Good day. Good day. Man, we are looking shaggy here in quarantine, Tim. Hair's getting long. Beard's getting thick.
Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
I have fun with hair being longer now, thanks to you, Tim, as far as, like, I just think about when we watched Angel Heart, and Robert De Niro had that, like, long hair that he lets when he lets it down, you were just like, ugh, I love it. I want it. Look at that.
I'm pretty far away from that.
Yeah. But as far
I
as
I need another year.
Yeah. But, you know, as far as the spirit of it all.
Hell yeah.
Great. What is this? Who are we? What are we talking about? This is Dismembering Horror. This is a podcast show where myself, Ryan McDuffie, and
myself, Tim Haslin.
That's right. We talk about what worked for us, what did not work for us, and anything we found interesting or noteworthy about a horror film. We're out there to see what's out there. That's right.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
And yeah, no, it's been fun because we want to. I don't know. It's like, for me, what motivates me in life so much is if everyone looks left, I want to look right. I want to, like, if given the opportunity to go off the beaten path, I always do. And I think horror represents that in a lot of ways. And it feels like it's somehow, Tim and I talked about at the beginning of all this, tackleable as far as, like, seeing just get the swath of what's out there. Like, yeah, there's tons. Like, I think it'd take like 40 years of watching a movie a day to technically see every horror film. But
oh my God.
As you know, I think as far as what would be skimming that surface is actually a pretty deep dive. So that's what we're here doing.
Yeah.
And Tim, before we really get into today's film, which I'm excited to, this is where we give any things of note, updates, kind of at the head. Anything newsworthy? Do you have anything? Because I obviously do.
Your cat does.
Yeah, hi, Sixto. Tim, so after the horrible, probably one of our least favorite films we've watched is part of the show, the 2020 Grudge movie, there is new Japanese Juwon coming out, and coming out sooner rather than later in July. Have you heard of this?
No.
So it's called Juwon Origins, and it's a Netflix adaptation. It's going to be like a little mini series.
Okay.
And it's all set. It's like fully, Japanese done and all that. I mean,
all right.
There's a trailer that was just released.
I could get behind this.
And it's coming out July 3rd.
Wow. Ooh, that's pretty soon.
Right? Anyway, you can see why I'm pretty excited about that.
You know what I looked up the other day, because it's been in sort of studio purgatory for, God, I don't even know how long at this point. Over a year at least. Is the new Mutants movie.
Is that X-Men?
It is of the X-Men universe, and it was the last film, I believe it was the last film made by Fox before Fox was bought up by Disney. And so, because of all of that stuff, it is a horror film. The one trailer they released, it's like, this is not an X-Men movie. Like, it's a horror film with the characters happen to be mutants. And, or not happen to be, but you know what I mean.
It is all body horror,
Right. And I was so excited for it because it was such a different sort of take on something I already like, which is, I mean, not that the X-Men movies are good. Don't get me started. But like, I grew up reading X-Men, Wolverine, and Spider-Man exclusively. Like, those were the three books that I read religiously all the time. And so to see, a sort of, I think one of the things that is always good about adaptations of franchises is to go down different stylistic pathways, right? Like, so I don't know if you and I ever talked about this, but when we saw Han Solo, the Han Solo movie Solo, there was sort of this debate prior to it being reshot by Ron Howard because Phil Lord and Chris Miller were known as comedic directors, and they were the guys who were helming it. And they ultimately got fired because, well, the rumor was being that they were kind of letting it be too much of a, like, borderline improv comedy, like, fun ride. And I was like, but that's what we want. We don't want just another Star Wars movie that's like right in that like generic lane. We want like the Star Wars movie that's a heist, which like Rogue One, the Star Wars movie that's a comedy, the Star Wars movie that's a horror film. Like I want to see more of that kind of cross genre stuff.
Yeah,
especially these franchises.
With I thought that was always kind of the point with having spin-off ones. Like you have your core trilogy ones. And then these guys. Yeah,
and the rumor always was that the Obi-Wan movie would be more of a Western, like...
That's what Mandalorian is, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mandalorian is a 1960s gunslinging Western.
TV
like
show,
TV Western, yeah. Anyway, so...
New Mutants, is that coming out or soon? Or
Well, so they made an announcement... that they gave it a release date for theaters right before the pandemic started. So although it is going to be released, it now probably, I don't know, who knows if it'll come out, but Disney is going to release it. There was always this fear that they were just going to completely shelve it and walk away. Because essentially that's where it's been for the last, I don't know, however long. They finished shooting it in like 17. Which is crazy. Maybe it was 18, but anyway, so I'm excited to actually see a different take on a big franchise, whatever thing.
Yeah, cool.
So,
I hope it comes out soon enough then.
Yeah.
I thought of you an at-home release that came out that was scheduled to be a big theater release was Scoob, the new Scooby-Doo movie. I know you're a fan of the franchise. Have you watched it?
I thought about watching. I haven't watched it yet.
Please
it's a hard one because my nostalgia is so deep that like new incarnations always feel off or wrong.
Yeah, I would actually love to do one of the kind of older cartoon movies for our show.
Oh my god, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, hey, and okay, so to get actually into our episode here, thanks for bearing with us, guys. This another, I think, noteworthy thing, but having to do with our episode. Tim, as far as I can tell, we're on episode 93 here. This is our first film from the 1950s.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. As far as I could tell. Can you think of any?
No.
Right.
God, that seems crazy though.
Our closest was Psycho is 1960.
Right.
And I believe that was the closest one. So what
I guess we sort of jumped. Yeah, we've gone earlier than this, but way earlier. Yeah.
When we done Innocence was 61. So yeah, we finally made it to the 50s. I think it's long overdue.
Well, and this is it couldn't be any more quintessentially 50s.
Yes.
Holy shit.
We are talking about now and today Fiend Without A Face from 1958. Those fiends, they certainly don't have faces. Watch out, Tim. The fiends are going to get you.
They don't have faces. You're right.
Fiend Without A Face. Not fiends, even though there's multiple. Anyway, Fiend. I just love... I love alliteration. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Fiend Without A Face, 1958. To get into it, we'll start with the trailer. Are you ready for the trailer?
I'm ready.
All right, here it is. Fiend Without A Face.
The brain, it's gone. That's not all. The entire spinal cord is missing.
But that's incredible. It's as if some mental vampire were at work.
Does it come from another country or another world? This terrifying menace that G2 must destroy before it's too late.
Image is fading, sir.
There it goes again. Same trouble.
How can they stop this invisible force whose only warning is a weird, blood-chilling sound? Only two people still alive can help this agent find the answers. The girl who could be a spy, and the scientist who could be the destroyer of the entire human race.
Now we move on to our rating per our rating system. Would Tim and myself tell ourselves to avoid it, stream it, rent it, or buy it? Who wants to go, Tim?
I'll go. I think that I would, well, I know I would definitely rent it. Like, I would rent this for sure. But the question is, would I buy it? You know what? I think I would need to see, like, a bunch of other similar 50s sort of, this style in particular, the sort of, like, that atomic era, you know, everything's a metaphor for, like, the invisible evil. I'm sure there are other, well, I'm not sure, but I imagine there are other better examples of that are even more quintessential, as much as I liked this one. So I'm going to say rent.
See, that's the thing. I don't know if there are better, like, without having seen more, like, maybe I'll find one that feels more quintessential. You know, I get the hesitation. But the thing is, Tim, like, in the end, I just loved, like, this world so much that they set up and got so caught up with the characters. And just...
You mean that the the crazy world of Manitoba?
Yeah, Canada. Exactly. No, just, you know, like the characters growing on you and everything about it, you know, the world of the film.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is kind of like my, again, without having seen more, but as for now, like how the Black Cat is, if I want, if I'm ever like, okay, I just want to watch like the 30s, 40s horror movie where the car breaks down and they end up at a creepy house. I'm just want to watch the Black Cat because it's just great. For me, it's just like this distilled, like all those classic elements just there. And for this too, it like had everything in a way that they're playing it so straight. It only was fun for me, you know, as far as like the lead couple, you like the professor who invents the evil, and like the girl of the story is his secretary, like down to the military, the small town, just you know, everything about it. But I just loved it all, and it was so, as I said, quintessentially that stuff. I was really into it, so I'm a buy it for that.
Cool.
I was super into it.
I'm very close to a buy.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. I'm guess nothing else to say. We'll say more in a second.
That's it.
Yeah. We have much more to say about why it was so good, but might as well not get ahead of myself quite yet, because we got to start with a summary.
Oh, okay.
A summary.
Well, in the great city of Manitoba, Canada, in the province of, no idea. Where do you think the province is? Is this in Ontario?
I don't know.
Well, me neither. So you got a military base. It's an American, like, U.S. military base.
It's like a joint operation.
Canada.
Yeah.
That's called, like, just colonialism right there.
They say it's like
starting it up.
They say it's like a joint operation thing.
Yeah, well, that's what, you know, that's what the British said about coming to
India.
The new world.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so they've built this base in Manitoba, which is actually kind of a small town, and it is a experimental atomic radiation base that they're doing all sorts of.
We just specialize in making atomic radiation. That's what we do.
That's right. They're just experimenting with it. And they've got like a cool radar thing going on, and they're trying to spy on Russia. And it's not really working the way they want it to work. There's like energy drains that are happening that they can't figure out. And then, well, I mean, in our opening scene, is it a military guy or a town guy?
I don't know.
It's a town guy. It's Barbara's brother.
Yeah.
So a farmer in the woods mysteriously dies right outside of the base. And a MP or whatever military guy hears it and finds him dead. So that kind of sets us up. And what's our lead dude's name? Jeff.
Major
what
Jeff.
A lame name.
Major Jeff Cummings.
Wow. No comment.
Okay.
So Jeff.
Major Cummings.
He's got his bomber jacket on, and he's I gotta be honest, he's kind of a putty dork. But whatever. So Jeff kind of takes the lead on this case here, and the townspeople are pissed off because they think that the base is like messing with people, and they think maybe it was a military, dude who is on the loose. A crazed military dude is on the loose, killing people.
Yeah.
Because
it's fun because the military knows it's not quote unquote knows it's not anything to do with them.
Yeah.
As far as the outright radiation, and then the townspeople are like, it's radiation killing everyone.
Right, exactly. So there's the inherent fear of atomic whatever in the townspeople. Everything is to blame. I mean, everything is blamed on that. It's atomic energy. It's making everything bad.
But their fears or their worries are warranted, though.
Well, in the end, they are, because it's a dumb movie.
but also the military's planes in it were affecting the rate of cows giving milk. They definitely disrupted their small town ways.
That's true. But Barbara, she argues the case. She's like, that's what was happening at first, but the cows have calmed down.
The cows have gotten used to it.
They're okay.
Right.
You know why she makes that argument? Because she fell in love with Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just taking his side. Anyway, so Barbara's the brother of the first person killed, and then very quickly, a couple of farmers get killed, a husband and wife, they're older, and in the same manner, and they're sort of like, what the fuck? And the military is like, hey, we need to see these bodies because we need to be able to prove that it's nothing to do with us. And there's a dispute between the doctors in the town and the doctors in the base and blah, blah, blah. So what ends up happening ultimately is that the military does get involved. They get their hands on a couple of the bodies. I think the mayor ends up dying as well. And they find that there are two little puncture holes in the base of the necks of all of these people, base of the skull, really, near the occipital bone. And that the brain has been sucked out, and so has the spinal cord, which is sweet.
Like an egg through two holes.
Yeah. So we know we got a monster on the loose. We don't know what the monster is. Nobody's seen it. We, the audience, have seen that it doesn't visually appear, that it's this sort of invisible monster, which is pretty sweet. And Jeff and Barbara and a couple military dudes. Oh, and the towns guys, man, did they go fucking looking for trouble, and they get it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the town guy who has the thickest accent. He's a real stick in the mud, and he gets it. He gets it bad. He kind of gets zombified, which is cool. And then we end up trapped in okay, so then we get to the scientist and we kind of figure out what's going on. And here's what's going on. The scientist is experimenting with mental telepathy. He's trying to find a way to make that a thing. And he discovers that a certain amount of energy will allow him to do that. And then the military base shows up and starts pumping energy into the...
It's actually not, it's not telepathy, it's telekinesis. It's moving things.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. So when the base gets built, they're putting out such high levels of energy that it actually helps him with his experiment, and he's able to do it. And then somehow he decides that not only is he going to have telekinesis, but he's going to allow the telekinesis to take on its own form separate to his thoughts.
He explains it pretty matter-of-factly that, of course, next thing I was going to do was just imagine a human without its individuality. He says, I just wanted a brain and a spinal cord, and that's it. So yeah. I focused on that as hard as I could.
Right. And it there you go. It came to be.
Yeah. Because
of atomic energy.
Mm-hmm. And science.
And then, but you can't see it. It's invisible.
Right. Until, of course, they get strong enough, the waves, they turn them on way strong in order to see them, because they have the final fracas where all our little hodgepodge heroes.
In the
professor's office.
House.
Yeah. And they have a big final fracas. Jeff goes to the base, saves the day by turning it up, comes back in time, helps shoot him.
No, here's what I think is great about this story. The solution to this story is blow it up.
Yeah, like was the dummy one that we watched was.
Oh my God, Dolly Dearest.
Dolly Dearest, send that mom into this movie. She'd do great.
Man, they fucking loved dynamite back then.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was so much fun because like you just have. It was so satisfying. I mean, we'll get into it, but yes, they use bullets and axes to kill these things.
Oh God, yeah. When we discovered that there are hundreds, if not thousands, I guess, of these brain monsters, I was, and they're awesome looking.
Yeah.
They're sort of claymation, like stop motion-y. Man, they're good. Yeah. And so they descend on the house, and Jeff has to dodge them on his way to the base to blow it up. It's great.
Yep.
And then he does. And then lots of just dripping sexual innuendo. Every guy who leaves the room when Jeff comes back gives a little comment about how Jeff is definitely going to fuck Barbara.
Yeah. And Barbara is definitely going to fuck Jeff.
Yeah. And the end. Literally on the screen as Jeff closes the door and puts his tongue down her mouth.
Just trying to remember everything that they were saying. It was so ridiculous.
Oh my God.
It's just like so much.
It was so on the nose. It was ridiculous.
This movie, I kept like, I swear I could hear you rolling your eyes like at all those parts all the way from my house.
Oh man. Yep. Well, there you have it.
Well, that's a full summary, Tim. Thank you.
Well, so when they blow the base up, the energy goes away, and therefore the monsters have no energy to manifest in there.
Yep.
And that's how they're
surprise,
defeated.
Happy ending.
Right.
All right, Tim. Well, that's that for that. So should we now do this?
Sure.
All right. Next section, we'll talk about what worked.
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked for you?
I mean, I already said, just as far as like hitting these classic tenets or whatever the word would be for like what you want from this, all the things that feel like they're tropes, but here they're just sincere. It's the movie, and we get to revel in it. So like, there's the ones I already said, but like the scene that you kind of described of the diagnosis of what the monster is, like when they're huddled around, and he's saying not what the monster is, what the killings are. It's like exactly what you said. The sucked out the brain, and they're trying to figure out. And one of them says, "Oh, maybe it's supernatural." All that set up.
It's mental vampires.
Yeah, you have them, and the one that's like, that's preposterous. Well, whatever it is, it was just great. The scene where like, this is where I could hear you rolling your eyes from my house, where it's like, it's just set up so deliberately, where she's in the shower and then he comes and the door is open, so he comes in, and it's just like that meet cute of seeing her in her towel. Like, it's like you've seen it, not just have you seen it 1,000 times, but you've seen it spoofed 1,000 times. But
what killed me about that scene, and it's not even a thing that didn't work. It's like it works because of what it is, but it's just so ridiculous. Is he? It's fine, whatever. He gets there, nobody answers the door, and the door is open, and he walks in the house, and he's calling out, like, hello, hey, Barbara, are you here, blah, blah, blah. She's in the shower, she gets out of the shower. How and why did he make it from just the living room, or just the entryway of the house, to her fucking bedroom next to the bathroom? Like, what are you doing, Jeff?
I didn't know that was her bedroom. He made it all the way into.
Well, whatever. Maybe it was an office, but it's like it seemed pretty deep into the house.
Yeah. Either way, why would you go past the front door? And then when she comes out,
here's my favorite part of that moment. Actually, the whole scene is so good. But my favorite part of that moment, when she comes out and there's that like, oh no, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and she kind of scurries back and closes the door. Instead of him being like, okay, maybe I overstepped my bounds, I'm gonna back out and wait in like the fucking entryway, or the other, like the fucking living room, or the family, whatever, like some other room that's like gives her a little bit of space so she's not just trapped in the bathroom. He like goes up to the bathroom door and he's like, oh, well, Barbara, I'm sorry about that. I mean, the door was open and I just, I called out, but nobody was there. I mean, and then she just comes out and she's like, oh, it's okay, Jeff. I'm in my robe now.
She goes, just give me 5 minutes, I think. Something like that. Love
a second later, she comes out in a robe.
The moment, the big reveal moment where they come out and they see each other with that music cue that happens. Oh,
it's so good.
Right?
It's so good because it happens twice.
Like, it's so obvious. But sincere. That's why it's the good kind of obvious. It's so sincere. Like, and they're great. God. Like, she especially she carried the movie for me. Like, she was so just like endearing, and all of her lines. She just, I don't know. She just had this fun, like, kind of smart energy behind her, Yeah,
because I think they set her up well, where she's sort of like, initially she's brought into the military people to sort of be pissed off that her brother is dead. Mm-hmm. And she knows that they're going to try and like sweep it under the rug. And the device that the filmmaker, the script uses to show her character is pretty great. The old codger military guy who literally says, I'm old school. I'm not a politician. I'm a military man. I just tell it like it is. Some would say I'm blunt.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it, dude. So he picks up her brother's little like notebook, and there's a page of times that they confirm match all of the takeoffs and landings of the planes, and they're like, oh, what was he doing? He was being a weird spy or something. And she's like, can I see the book? And they're like, sure. She flips to the next page and she's like, on the next page, it's literally him describing the like emotions of his cattle. This is not him spying. It's him seeing whether or not the air traffic patterns are affecting his cows. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
And they do. They're like, well, I guess we're done here.
Yeah.
So
but then it's
she's so like it plants us right in that she is not stupid. She's not to be kind of trifled with. And, she's got an actual, point of view, and she's pissed.
And then what's fun is we get the, we're with her throughout all that, but then we get the immediate counterpoint, and we're for them as, the couple or whatever, where and the military people not all being so bad kind of thing, or at least being able get on board with them. And that was kind of a fun theme throughout. Cause in the next scene, she's kind of chiding Jeff. And he's like, come on, who do you think I am? I'm not some monster from outer space. He says pretty much that exactly.
And it just warms her up.
Yeah.
She's like, no, Jeff, you really aren't.
It warmed me up too, because he made a good point. I had those biases too against him of just because he's in uniform. I'm like, what is he doing to our small town here?
Yeah, but he has a bomber jacket,
right?
That he never takes off.
Oh,
it's
Major
Canada
Cummings.
though. Must have been cool up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Breezy.
Weather appropriate.
Yeah.
The pacing overall I thought was great. Those
it was
setups.
pretty good, even in spite of the fact that just as a stylistic thing, you kind of get these they're borderline canned kind of exposition scenes that are just in a room in an office. It's 4 people standing around, open to camera, right? It's
but even those
they still work. They flow.
They're usually well shot too. You're wondering what the heck is going on. The details that you're learning about are fun.
Yeah, they were. Well, I think the success of almost all of those scenes is, and the failing in that era, a lot of the time was that those scenes would go on, and you'd be like, I don't even remember what we're talking about, because they just visually they weren't typically that interesting. You usually had 3 setups, kind of like old school TV, where it's you have your master and then you have your 2 sort of off to the side 2 shots that are grabbing 2 people in each one or whatever. And that was it, and you'd get bored real fast because it's just people talking. But they really cruise through those quickly. Mm-hmm. They don't mess around, and that's great.
Well, you also have just splitting those up. We have a healthy amount of kill scenes that you'd want in this kind of just horror movie.
That's true, yeah.
And all of them, they're gruesome, without being gruesome.
I was thinking about this. How great of a decision to just be here's the deal, actors. It's on you.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a thing. We're not going to cut away. It's just you. So you better sell that you're getting killed right in that moment.
And they do their
definitely
screams.
Do.
Their screams are always just so, as I said, gruesome, agonizing. You feel it.
Every time you see their face after they're dead and their eyes are sort of wide open, I love that.
Yeah. No, you're right. They absolutely commit, and that's what makes it happen. But what was cool is the filmmaking commits entirely too. That's why it works. The kill scenes, they actually have this fiendish edge to them.
Ooh.
Very, very sinister. To them, especially with that sound effect to get that out of the way.
That's right. Yeah.
The sound effect that they make. Right. It's this slurping, thumping, oofing, just wet.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's probably my second favorite creature weird sound effect in horror, next to the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers 20 years later.
What's that sound?
Just all the sounds whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah.
whoa. This, that, the when they're being hatched, all that stuff. But yeah, so there's that sound effect, which then when you had each of those kill scenes, it was actually scary. It was funny because my instinct is almost to kind of for each of the Fiend's scenes up until the ending when we actually see it, like you want to say, oh, it's kind of a cop out, like they're finding a way to kind of do it on the cheap or whatever, but it doesn't feel like a cop out at all, like, because they're actually, well done, suspenseful, the kills are sold, but the effects of the invisibility effects, like,
I love all that.
It's done really well, of whether, it's a carpet moving or the door swinging or just some object like reacting to it. Like that all is done well. So it's hard to say, you're just getting another kind of cool effects. And then it works because, like, or I guess you think of it some way like it's a cop out. That means they're like trying not to show the monster or whatever. But then we get the huge ending where they do like show it more than you could ever want.
Yeah, well, and the structure of how you see it each time or don't see it is progressive. So like the first time you see nothing, you barely even see the kill. The second time you see the monster under the hay, right? And you get some hay moving and then they get killed. And you actually kind of watch the farmers die. The third time is even more because you watch the monster like make its way over the porch into the house. It cuts a hole in the screen door. It goes across the carpet. Like, so each time we get more and more of the thing and realize, oh, there's a thing there. It's not just this like mysterious, nebulous, like we never know what's going on. Like we are being shown everything but the monster. We're like watching it move through the house.
Yeah.
And so each time it gets better and better. So once we get the reveal, we go, oh, that makes sense. That's what we were like what was there the whole time.
Yeah.
Even in the act of people dying, they reach up and they grab around their neck as if there's like a tube around their neck. And we realize, oh, it's the spinal cord tail thing that wraps around people's necks when it kills them, right? And so they were like pantomiming that out in their deaths before we ever saw it. So like that's actually really good, accurate continuity, like thinking about what's going on in the filmmaking. So I commend that for sure.
Absolutely. Here. And so we have like, the chunk of the movie that's playing in, well, I don't want to say just suspense, but as far as not seeing the creatures outright. So then we do finally get to the big showdown. And as we kind of already set up, it's so much fun because it does just come down to them shooting at them. And like, it's every time the bullet hits the brain and the blood just kind of squidges out.
Yeah,
and like hitting it with the axe, just getting that squish.
That might be my favorite.
Right? Then the sound effects
Where
there.
Did that axe come from? Who gives a fuck? Jeff grabs that axe and just pulverizes the thing. It's so good.
I know, it makes it look like it's a lot of fun. And there's a bunch of them too,
So many.
It's great. The classic, like, they're coming through, breaks through the boards to get in. Loved it.
Yeah, the stop motion stuff, it actually is really, really well done.
Yeah.
Like, in things in frame with the actual actors, like, I don't actually know how they did this, because you can tell that they've spliced footage together, but it's in frame. So, like, in the foreground would be the monsters moving, and they would, like, they'd behave. And in the background, you would have the actual film of the actors doing their thing. But like, I don't think those two things were happening at the same time. I think those are shot separately and then spliced on top of each other.
On a first watch, I didn't notice anything.
Man, it is good. Like, it is so good. For that time, holy shit. Like, their execution on it was incredibly good.
Right. I mean, it feels like appropriately... you got to remember, like, King Kong came 20 years earlier or whatever. Maybe, I think more than that.
Definitely,
25 years earlier.
Like that, their skill at splicing those things together was really, really great. Like,
I'm just saying, it feels like the it's Yeah, I guess
where it should be.
Where
you say that though, but like, and then you watch another movie from the 50s or from the 60s, and you can like see the strings, that the flying saucers are hanging from.
No, I think I'm saying it's so nice to see one where it feels like it is where it should be. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
like
exactly,
I didn't notice any mats or anything on a first watch. Yeah,
no,
it's great.
It's really good.
Anything else in that big finale to mention? You like?
Oh, so many bullets.
Right. There's so many of them.
Many bullets.
Yeah. I like how they're hanging on trees. That was.
You know what I really like? His name is Chester. Well, his last name is Chester. He's like kind of the sidekicky character. He's got like pictures of ladies on his office wall.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of a dork. I mean, he is a dork. So it's Chester and the old codger military guy, and Barbara and the professor are kind of the last four. Is there one other person? Maybe there's a doctor. Yeah, there's a doctor as well. They're the last four in there, and once the brain monsters get inside, and it's just this fracas, and they're flying at Barbara, they really want to get Barbara's brain.
Yeah.
Which I get it.
Yeah, they go for it. They get on her.
Sapiosexual, you know what I mean? And I'm attracted to somebody's mind.
Yeah.
So they're going after Barbara. At one point, Chester, the way that he shoots at one of them is like he's stabbing it with the gun. Like he shoots, I wish I could show you guys this, but he gets back and he goes, kapow! And he like flicks the gun while he's shooting.
Like something of like Grand Theft Auto or something.
Yes, it's so aggressive and so over the top. And I just imagine the actor was like, this is my, like, the shot of the movie for me. It's a full body, low to high, the monster's attacking. I better sell that I'm shooting this thing. Shoot it! And he shoots for real. Like, it's so good. Like, that whole sequence is awesome. The fifth dude or sixth dude who's there, who the only one of that group that actually dies, his panic attack, like, I don't want to be here. I gotta go.
Yeah. Is he the one? I love it. The one who, it's like kind of in a lot of the posters, the guy who gets it on his neck in that scene. Yeah,
yes, that guy. He's having a whole freak out. And I love that they made it an older white dude. It just feels good to not have it be like a secondary female character who's being hysterical in quotations. You know what I mean? Like, it's so satisfying to see this guy. He's like, I gotta get out of here.
And like, as if, we already said the look of horror on all the victims' faces are just so good. Like, he just comes in there at the end of the movie and takes the cake with his look of horror.
There's a reason he's on like the posters.
Yeah.
He's a nothing character. I kept thinking, like, I don't even know who this guy is. They just threw him in there. They're like, we need somebody who's not one of the lead characters to die. Hey, you. Grip.
I know, like, I'm looking at these the cast names or the character names. I'm like, who? Like, we have Captain Chester, Dr. Warren, Colonel Butler. Like, I don't know. They all are.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know. Stanley Maxted. Which guy is that?
But you know who I do remember and who I loved, Tim, was the Professor. R.E. Walgate.
Bet you did.
Professor Walgate. Why do you say that?
He is so odd.
Well, I just love his diligence to just, I think what I love about these professor characters, it's like they take this very like corncob pipe working approach to the bizarre, but take it like they're always taking it like utterly seriously though. It feels like it's almost accepted more in this era and culture through its guise of him having a desk to work at versus now it's just all hullabaloo, but then it's like, no, I was interested in how to do this, a completely out there idea. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, and then sets to work on it. But I loved, like, I can't think of an exposition scene off the top of my head that I loved more than this exposition scene. Like, yeah, it
The
went
flashback?
Yeah, the flashback exposition scene of like the professor just laying down everything. Where he starts with, well, I was interested in thought materialization. And then, just him setting up the whole idea. And then he actually introduces the word fiend into the movie. It just tickled me so much. Like, he's in a quote of his, he said, "I knew now I had created a fiend. There was no other explanation." And then we get the callback to the phrase mental vampire, where it's like, he says, "So what they are, mental vampires." And then Jeff, like from earlier, he's the one who said it when they were meeting. He's kind of like, see, told you guys.
Yeah.
That phrase, mental vampire. Anyway, just like seeing his like everything that he was up to, from turning the pages with his mind to then the specificity of like of course. So then I would try to think of a brain and a spinal cord with weird little like tentacle eyes sticking out as that's of course what I would think of as the thing to materialize.
Yeah, he's on cocaine.
He working all hours of the night.
Yeah, that guy, just look at his mouth half the time. He is chewing his face off.
He's probably on, what do they say at the first scene of the movie? You got to lay off the Benzedrine. Yeah,
oh my God, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He is. He's juiced up, man. He is just fucking winging the whole time.
Yeah, they didn't say that. He was saying that to Jeff was on Benzedrine, but just a reminder that everyone was on that. Yeah, everyone
back
the
in
Beatles,
the day, benzos.
The Beatles when playing, I think that was their drug of choice when playing those Hamburg shows.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Anyway, that just
baseball players used to take benzos back
right?
in the day. It's crazy. Everybody was just like, yeah, give me some speed.
Well, yeah, when you're trying to manifest thoughts in the physical form.
I love the moment that he turns the page. It is so stupid. It's because all I could think about is like two things. One, willing suspension of disbelief that like the page turned. I was like, maybe the air conditioning just turned on. But the other is imagining filming that scene and there's some dickhead off camera going and blowing the page over. The amount how many takes they probably had to do before they got the page to actually go. They're like, Dan, can you we saw you in camera. Can you back up but blow harder?
I want to know what they did now. Yeah.
It was good.
It's great. No, and I was so happy at how long it went on for anyways.
Yeah, he's hilarious. I mean, that actor's really going for it.
Yeah, the professor, he's great.
Right on the line. Because he almost kills the movie by being too like, I'm a crazy doctor, professor,
He's not that at all, though.
He's pretty close. There's a couple scenes when he's sitting there and I was like, this guy looks like he's about to fucking have an aneurysm. He
always seemed like he was very like calm and collected, just, stuff in his pipe.
Yes and no. That's what I'm saying, is that the calm and collected, just watching his facial expressions I was like, he looks like he's about to have a fucking seizure.
Well, yeah. That would explain his big finale.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so to hit up on some other points, move along. I think I just have some other just like touches or scenes I really liked. Another just super creepy moment was the guy, like, you kind of wondering during it, well, what happens if someone survives this? What happens if the brain monster, if the fiends only kind of partially suck you or whatever? And then we get this military guy, someone we know, wanders in just zombified. We hear, you're right, we hear the sound first.
That's not a military guy. That is the the dickhead who breaks up Barbara and Jeff.
Yeah.
He's the towny guy who's all like gung-ho about like hating the military, and
Right.
he's the one who gets the search party together, and he disappears out there. That's him.
Got
He really gets his comeuppance of being kind of a jerk the whole time.
Well, it almost wants to make you laugh. Like, just the sound is just so odd. Like when we first hear him off screen, like
going,
it's the kind. Yeah. Very. What have we? That reminded me of something that we've watched.
I know, and I don't know what.
I don't know.
It's so funny.
Yeah, no, but then once we finally see him, he's it's just his makeup and his look of it's just that thought of like being lobotomized is horrifying.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I love that's one of my favorite moments of the whole movie.
Right.
It's just that shot of him walking through and like hearing him first is so smart. And having it be a sound that we haven't heard in the movie at all.
Yeah, we're
and
like,
then
this isn't the sound
door
of the
sort of
Fiends.
flies open, and we're low underneath him, so we're looking up at him, and it's pretty like wide lens, so he's a little distorted. It's really good. It reminded me a little bit of the sort of canted weird angles in Black Cat of the Satan worshippers. Like it had that sort of like he like moves kind of into camera. And he's just like standing there going with his mouth like stuffed with cotton. So good.
Right. And I loved his scene that you described too when he interrupts Jeff and Barbara at the beginning, and him and Jeff, they just like they just got to let out a few punches.
They just have a punch up.
There's an attractive
punch
woman
each other
present.
in the face like 4 times.
So we better just punch each other, just for good measure.
Yep.
And they're both like they almost seem like they're friends, afterwards about it. You just had to get it out of their system. That just
So
cracked me up
ridiculous.
because I think it's sad we can't watch these movies together in quarantine anymore. But I feel like I could hear you laughing, like when it felt like there was just that third or fourth punch you weren't expecting, and I could see you go, "Whoa!" Like,
oh shit!
Yeah,
here we go.
All right.
I mean, actually, to that guy, another scene with him when he rallies everybody up. There is. He's like having a little. He's gathering up a little posse, right? And he's like shouting at the crowd, and a couple people are chiming in, and then somebody one guy chimes in, and nobody thinks anything of it, and then the guy tries to say something again. I forget what his name is. It's like I think it's Peterson, or no, Peterson. I think that's right. Anyway, so he's got a very thick accent. I don't quite know if they were trying to do like a Manitoba accent or if that was just whatever, but. In the middle of him, like, riling up this posse, some guy yells from off camera, and he's like, yeah, but this, and then somebody else is like, hey, man, just let him talk. And it's like, everybody just shut up for a second. There's this really funny, weird, like, just rapport in the crowd that's existing. And the next shot, when he's like, okay, let's go do it, they cut to just a single car on the road. There's nothing else there. A parked car on the road. And the whole posse starts walking towards the car. And I was like, if they all get in, if they clown car this and this like whole posse gets in the car, I'm going to die of laughter. But instead he just opens it up and he like opposite clown cars. He opposite to a clown car starts pulling rifles out of the car. And it's like one after the other. He pulls out like 16 rifles. It's just how many rifles does this dude carry in the back of the seat of his car?
I remember that scene, just like so many guns. Just like, what are you people doing with all these guns?
It's Canada, man.
Yep.
You gotta hunt.
Yeah. Manitoba moose. We even if all these sci-fi 50s scenes were getting it all, we even had a spooky crypt scene.
That was the. I was gonna save this for what did not work. It's just go ahead.
I just liked it. I mean, it was kind of weird just as far as the whole like the recovery that
Kinda.
no, as far as the professor and him afterwards, like is kind of sorting it out. You almost killed me. Sorry about that.
He's like, sorry, I didn't mean to close the door on you and seal you in this airtight crypt, but then I walked away anyway.
No, I just liked that it was it just felt fun as just one other setting just to throw in. I just liked seeing Major Cummings go down there, descend the stairs, light the candles after the match.
Oh yeah. Find a pipe.
I don't know, and it gives, that gives the professor, so he's not just holed up in his place. Whatever. I mean, I have nothing more to say about it. It wasn't the standout scene or anything. I just liked that we got a spooky crypt scene.
Yeah, I get you.
Okay.
What else?
I feel like that's all I really had down. I mean, I'm sure all of the other moments I liked. Just really loved it overall.
Oh, you know what? I have one more. In the beginning, when we meet Jeff and Chester for the first time, it's just a really rote kind of like Jeff is sitting there and Chester is kind of like he's like feeding him a point of view where he's like, "What do you really think?" It's very, very like kind of stock of like, "What do you think, boss?" Like, do you think we're actually going to do something? These townies, they don't know anything about anything. And they walk outside of the office when that conversation is done. And we, in the foreground, have this kind of husky dude sitting at a desk. And he's like eating a sandwich and he sees that they're coming in and he quickly like puts the sandwich under his desk. And they pass him and Chester sees him and gives him a little like wink, wink, wink. And then they walk out of the office, and the guy picks his sandwich back up out from under the desk and starts eating it again. What is going on?
Secret sandwich.
Like, what is going on? What was the point of any of that? I love it. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love it. Like, it is one of the greatest little, like, weird moments. It does not add anything other than humor, but like, why is it there?
It's like
we meet that guy later for like 10 seconds.
Right. I like how it adds up to this whole idea that the movie's, a theme the movie's dealing with as far as the military being consisting of actual people. But what a kind of
sure.
idiosyncratic way to show that with someone who has apparently needs to be secret sandwich habit.
Secret sandwich.
Like,
it's so bizarre. I love it. I guess one thing we should kind of mention, even though we sort of mentioned it at the top, the broad thematic stuff of this story and why you tell this story is so cool. And like, I just think of an era where that fear of like the atom bomb and fear of the Russians and fear of the other and fear of things like, like the Red Scare, like being like, communism is going to come here and it's going to infect our minds. Like all of the undercurrent of those things is in this movie. It's not super over the top. They don't push on it too much. It's just kind of there. But I love all of that stuff because it's really the foundation of the monster stories of the 50s, where it's like, it's all based in this fear of the invisible enemy.
It was kind of surprising me how relevant it felt like still now, the fears as far as, but I think at least my access point or the fear that I tapped into was that's a still relevant one of kind of that fear of not untamed or unbridled, but like just a scientific progress without any kind of like limitation, or just the idea of how far that can go and kind of being afraid of how that can affect, the life that we know and are so comfortable with rather than being excited about it.
Yeah. But even, and like the construct of the townsfolk, they say it, they're simple people kind of thing a bunch of times. It's like, that's fine. And maybe their reaction is a little less measured than it could be, but they're not wrong, right? Like the military is kind of unwittingly pushing it into a realm that has consequences, and they're ignoring that. And the professor is pushing it into a realm that he doesn't know. He doesn't know what the fuck he's dealing with, and he's ignoring the responsibility of that. And the townspeople are kind of like, in a way, they're right. Like, they're like, yo, chill the fuck out, everybody. Like, let's not kick the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
And I just like that dynamic. There's layers to the perspectives on these things. And Jeff and Barbara, they ultimately they wax and wane within that. And they play off of each other in that thematic way too, of like, at one point she's kind of like, you're just a douche. And then she's like, well, actually he's kind of okay. Like, he's not towing the party line so hard. He's whatever. Like, they have a good kind of back and forth that is a little bit of a foil, or I guess the townspeople in the military are kind of a foil for the relationship between the two of them. And like, so all of that stuff, it's well constructed. It's definitely well thought out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just us being kind of dramaturgical about it. Like, they clearly considered all these things and wove it into the story. Whereas I think a lot of the time, even now, you have people making this movie and all they are making is, oh yeah, there's an invisible monster and it's going to get you. Right? Mm-hmm. They don't add in these layers of like social commentary, political commentary, like the fears of like the metaphorical fears that exist within humanity. Like, that's all in this movie. And I think that's why it's so commendable and so kind of, it holds up. And like you were saying, it actually feels kind of relevant right now.
Yeah.
That's a pretty like impressive thing.
Or just at least didn't feel like I was still just able to get into the story, not thinking I was so separated from it by 70 years or whatever.
No, and I think that's because they took it seriously. Yeah. Even though they have, claymation brain monsters jumping and like sucking your brain out of the back of your head.
62 years. Sorry, just correcting myself. Yeah.
Even that as a metaphor, the monster that sucks your brain out of your head, it's very similar to the zombie sort of thing, and why there's a political metaphor behind, the Romero stuff. It's social commentary. Like, it's saying like, hey, be careful. Because if you fuck with the stuff a little too much, you're going to get your brain sucked out, which is really just another way of saying like, you're going to get brainwashed. You're going to get indoctrinated into a way of looking at the world that's fucking bad.
Even just that idea too, I think it's so... God, this is where, you just apply it to anything. The idea of the invisible force, the thought form, the monsters start off as like thoughts. They started off as invisible is what he said. And then all of a sudden, we get the repercussions of war, global warming become more and more there and actualized. Exactly. At its root, I think the movie is sort of, it's saying that all the worst things in the world, the worst outcomes start with an idea. And if you feed that idea improperly, it will turn into a reality, and that reality can reap havoc. Right. It's like, oh, well, whatever. You can't see radiation. Let's just keep putting it out there. Did I say reap havoc? I meant wreak havoc. Yeah. But both. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. And I think that from a writing standpoint, that's just fucking cool. Mm-hmm. That commentary is in this. In a way that they're like, hey, let's make a movie about that idea. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I think it's fucking sweet. I agree. I'm a buy. Oh, whoa! Ring, ding, ding, ding. Where's the bell? Oh, God, I don't know. Where is the bell? He switched it. Awesome. It's right here. We have a double buy. Double buy! Double buy! Oh, man, I just, completely blew out the microphone. Sorry. Well, should we see if we did have anything that did not work for our double buy? Sure. All right, here we go. Next section, what did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
The only thing that I had, I feel like it might actually grow on me. It's the kind of thing where it doesn't give you your expectations, but then maybe it's actually fine or for the better, which is the professor's death. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Where
dude, I know.
you always want, I want so bad, I liked the guy. It was fun. I was with his character. I didn't even really get what his motivation was, but he just runs outside and gets killed. Like it's nothing.
And then somebody goes, what a brave man.
Right.
What?
What? Yeah. Like you want to see him be the one, like Godzilla, be the one to like have to sacrifice themselves actually. Like that's just what you want.
Right.
But I guess maybe he did that according to the movie, but it sure didn't feel like he
no, it really didn't.
did much.
I was equally disappointed in that. I just felt like, wait, no, what? Okay.
So now I'm hoping if I see it again, I'll just I will tune into more just the horrificness of that kind of how he dies. But I don't know. I was sad he didn't get a better send off.
Yeah, I kind of like my 3 things are kind of like that. Each one just seems a little like lame.
Let's hear them.
So the first one is the Crypt. I'm just like, it just feels like a filler, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, I guess it adds only that like you see Jeff in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so maybe we sympathize with him a little bit more because he's going through something.
I don't know. Yeah, I like that.
But, I'm okay with that. But the Crypt itself, like, it's so out of place.
No, it is. I
it
hear
is
you.
like, I mean, we, like you said, we literally go from, small town Canada to Dracula's lair. There is a coffin with a cross on it that's like half open. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think it was interesting for me.
It's just a set that they were like, hey, let's go shoot something over in that Crypt set. That'd be cool.
Rather than having that, like, where is this coming from disconnect when it should, we have labs in small town and why are we in this Crypt all of a sudden? I think, like, the fact that it was in the 1950s just made it feel like, oh, this is just all old stuff that isn't there anymore. So like whatever that disconnect is that I have from everything else in the movie, like the Crypt as location was just, even though it's not at all accurate and I see it is out of place, I'm just like, oh yeah, like those crypts that they had back then.
Right. It really felt out of place. And I feel like there was a better version of that scene that they could have made. Off the top of my head, let's say like, since the professor has this secret laboratory, like if Jeff followed the professor through like a hidden back, like secret entrance into that, and then got sealed in it somehow or into an area of it that was dangerous, that'd be a good lead into the professor's story, right? Like it would help. It would make we just feel like we're still in the right world.
Right. I know. I think they were probably just didn't think much about it after. Was like, okay, the professor's got to find the dead body. Where would the dead body be? Oh, well, why don't we do this?
I mean, go put it in a morgue. Morgues are way scary.
I think that's what they thought. Well, a morgue isn't scary. Let's have it be a crypt.
Maybe,
Yeah. I think that was.
But I'd love to see Jeff get like trapped in like one of the morgue, freezers.
Yeah.
Like that's way more scary to me because I feel claustrophobic in that sense. But whatever.
I agree. That would feel way truer to the rest of the film.
So my second one is what you just said. The professor's death, just lame. Mm-hmm. It could have been so much cooler. Like have him go out, guns a-blazing or swinging or like something.
Yeah, I know
it's super lame.
It's such a you really want to milk that the creator being killed by his own creations thing, and it just didn't.
Now,
milk
granted, he does get like 4 of them on him.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
So that part I was down with.
Yeah.
And then the last one for me, honestly, it's just the solution being dynamite the base. I have a really hard time getting behind it for one reason in particular. When Jeff shows up, he could just flip a switch and turn it off.
Right?
Right? Nobody's there.
I think, though, their motivation going into it is no one can have this technology anymore, and it's coming from these satellite things, or the what do you call them? The not antenna.
The radar things, yeah.
Yeah, the radar things.
But here's the thing, like, I think it would just take one extra little cue of writing to make it even cooler, to make it more dire. And it's essentially like in Alien, when Ripley goes back to shut off the auto-destruct, and you have that really intense moment of her trying to like physically push it back together in time so that she can shut it off, and it doesn't work. Then we know, like, oh shit, this is going to get out of... Now she has to go, right? It ups the ante. I just feel like it'd be great if Jeff had gotten there with the intention of turning it off. And when he gets there, you know, like, the brain monsters have, like, eaten through the off switch, or whatever. Like, something like that, where he's like, fuck. Now I'm really fucked. Good thing I brought these sticks of dynamite.
Because even if he wants to blow it up so no one can do it again, it would be quicker just to take care of these initial ones and just turn it off with the switch.
Yeah. Yeah, you can blow it up later. Just hit the off switch.
And you're right. It would take a little more, like you said, but they probably just were like, you know, it's not exciting just to have, it's anticlimactic if he just runs in and hits a switch. But you're right. They didn't think how to do that more interestingly. Yeah.
Right. That's it for me, though, really. I mean, the sexism notwithstanding.
Right. That's there.
Whew. That parade of men,
that ending,
and
I
like
know,
patting him on the shoulder, each
like,
one of them is so gross.
I would just be so mad if
looks like you've got some business to take care of.
If I was Jeff, I would just be so mad. Just like, dude, just lay off me.
Get the fuck out of here so I can make out with the girl I like.
Right, I don't care what
like. Stop making commentary about it.
I don't want to be thinking about you, Major whatever. Come on, get out of here.
God,
Sergeant Casper.
Gross. It was super gross. Oh, you know what? There's one other sexist moment that I hated. For two reasons. The main reason is that it's just kind of gross. It's of a time, and I get it that, like, at the time it probably seemed super innocuous. But, like, the first time Jeff kisses Barbara, he, like, steals a kiss, right?
Yeah.
He just sort of plants one on her, and he's like, if we weren't going through this, I'd stick around for more of that. Mm-hmm. And then he runs off. But, like, even the kiss itself doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. It feels unwarranted and she didn't give any sort of permission to it.
I know
how she reacts to the kiss. Like, she doesn't kiss him back. She kind of just gets hit with it. And then she's like, ugh. It just, all of that felt bleh.
Maybe I'm just a horrible person, but because she made that face afterwards, that was like, ooh, like, yeah, I liked that. I was just like, just my horrible self was sold. I don't know.
Well, you were just imagining kissing Barbara.
It's just the fantasy aspect of it.
She's great.
Yeah.
You want to kiss her. You want to date her. She's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just felt
it's hard for me to like parse out moments of sexism that, I mean, except for that last one that was just like, it just felt like it sealed the deal through. But which is when you're watching a movie from this era, and I am like, I am the horrible person, as is what I phrase it as, but it feels like I'm not, a woman, and I'm not especially, so it's like I can tune into it, in a way where I can just accept it at face value. I don't want to say it feels weird to say like I should or I shouldn't, but I think can't help. I do or I don't. Like, I'm sorry, I like the movie.
I'm not saying we need to come down on all of the. It happened. It was what it was, right? Like we don't need to come down on it from that angle. All we have to do is have the responsibility as people living in today's world to acknowledge the sort of like, that's not how we should be behaving today. And if we're going to make art, we should be able to identify those things and not fall into this tropiness that is misplaced and misguided, especially in today. And in fact, if we have a responsibility to understand the history of that stuff so that we can either or comment on it, or like kind of exploit it a little bit and be like, hey, dickheads, don't do this stuff. Like, this is why it feels gross. And give, have characters that have that commentary that make us go, oh, right. That is not the lessons that we're sort of, the undercurrent that is sort of paving the way for how young men view the world and view women. Right? Like, that's our responsibility. So I'm not like, oh, fuck the movie and fuck the filmmakers. It's like, it's over. It was a different era. But like, we can recognize it today and sort of be like, all right, cool. Yeah, that's not what we're going to do.
Well, I think just what maybe why I was able to key into it, what saved it for me, like what we already talked about, was just like, she was great up front, like what she brought to the role. Like, it wasn't the total, wasn't just totally helpless and lame and stupid, know?
I really, really wish she had picked up a gun or an axe at some point, though.
Yeah.
That would have, there's nothing more satisfying than like seeing the person that the old trope has told us is sort of helpless or hapless or whatever, and having them assert themselves. Like, that's always satisfying.
Mm-hmm. And that's just, even if it didn't come to a weapon, she was just felt like she was fully asserting herself the whole film. And that's, I don't know.
True. I just mean in that final moment. Yeah.
No, it just got me to think of like, oh, well, how was she doing that in other ways?
Right. Cool. That's it though for me. I mean, I just generally, it's great.
All right, let's move on. Next section for Fiend Without A Face. Things of note.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
It was interesting learning about the how this film was put together as an independent British film. Its production. Yeah. And it made me wonder, like, if we're kind of talking about how this is like distilling elements and all these tropes of these kind of American 50s sci-fi films, you wonder if sometimes does it take an outside perspective to almost kind of best distill those elements, where like you have the American filmmakers who are doing it because they're just, following the steps and not thinking about it, versus somehow having it be British. They're kind of like getting to make one of these films, or I don't know. That's just...
Yeah. Well, it's late 50s, so they've obviously learned some lessons from what came before it, so that's always important. I think, probably. I think they're saying, hey, let's kind of, with a stiff upper lip, let's bring some British ingenuity and one up those Yankees.
Absolutely, they did. I thought it was interesting that we always associate how it's independent film that pushes forward different artistic things, like in case and gore, specifically in horror films. It'd be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whatever. but this one, since it's just, 1950s sci-fi, I did not really think of anything as being gory or being like, visceral effects. But apparently, yeah, it really did. It caused quite a stir with the presence of its gore and pushed some boundaries there.
Cool.
As far as brains, leaking blood and all that good stuff. Yeah. Here it says 5 months later. This is on Wikipedia. Fiend Without A Face created a public uproar after its British premiere. The British Film Board of Censors had demanded a number of cuts before its release and finally granted the film an X certificate, but newspaper critics were still aghast at its horrifying special effects. Questions were actually raised in Parliament as to why British censors had allowed Fiend Without A Face to be released. Notably, what is the British film industry thinking by trying to beat Hollywood at its own game of overdosing on blood and gore?
Oh. Clutch them pearls.
Right?
The crumpets, I guess.
But I just think it's so neat that it was gory, even though I didn't even realize it while watching it,
I thought about it while it was happening. I was like, this is probably fucking super intense for the time.
Right? Yeah, when you think about it.
I have a correction. So Manitoba is the province of Canada.
Okay, so it's not the city it's in, yeah.
The town is Winthrop.
Okay,
in Manitoba, Canada.
That sounds.
This just goes to show how much I know about Canadian geography.
How much Americans know about Canadian geography. You're okay. Did you read about how they promoted the film in Times Square, New York?
No.
So they were showcasing, there are pictures of it. It's cool. They're showcasing on the sidewalk outside the theater a quote, living and breathing fiend, where it's like in this little cage, and like every couple minutes it would make the sound and move its spinal tail. And apparently it got, it created such kind of so much attention, and everyone was flocking to see it, that after 2 days, the police made them shut it down because of disrupting traffic or whatever. Can you just imagine being like a 1950s person and just how cool it would be to like, oh yeah, what is this like thing to go see? Like you can't just go up and like look at all this crazy artwork and design stuff like you can nowadays, just to go seek out this weird creature. Like it's just so neat.
Awesome. Right?
I would have been there. Yeah, that was fun. It was being shown in the US as a double billing, since it's shorter, with The Haunted Strangler, which is a Boris Karloff film, so it was playing after that.
Oh yeah.
So a little context. Yeah, I was watching like a little special feature on the Criterion Channel where the executive producers like looking at some old publicity materials and talking about the film a bit. And he says that it's so stupid that we talked about her coming out in the towel or the blanket or whatever, that like MGM's publicity department just totally like was like, okay, that's our image for the movie. So like in all the poster, it's like such a silly short moment, but they like totally just exploited it for their advertising. So it was that and the little drawn picture of the brain, which are kind of its key promotional elements, which, hey, I mean, that'd get me in to see it.
Yep. It made me, it just occurred to me, I had this thought while we were watching the movie. Barbara's wardrobe is amazing in this movie.
Yeah, I like her style.
Whoever costumed her, fucking great. She got some really cool, like, modern shit. Like, people would wear that shit now and it'd be, like, sweet.
Yeah, you kind of see it's the kind of cool beatnik, leading into the 60s kind of thing going on.
Yeah. I mean, you had to do something because everybody else is in a fucking, military uniform.
Right. Someone have some life and fun.
Lesson learned. If you're going to do a thing like a military movie, like let the characters put their like personal spin on their uniforms a little bit. Don't just have everybody in the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah.
I had that thought early on in this movie where I was like, oh boy. It's like when there was a movie we watched, I don't even remember what it was, where like we couldn't distinguish any of the characters.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? I have no idea what it was, but we were just like, I don't know who's who. It's like a bunch of dudes. They look exactly the same.
Right,
They're all
right.
wearing the same shit. Anyway.
I don't remember. Too many now. Yeah, I'm still trying to remember the one where... Swamp Thing.
What about it?
That was when you were doing the voice earlier of the guy who gets lobotomized. That was yeah, that was the same as your Swamp Thing voice.
That's right. Well, I'm not a voiceover actor.
It to me sounds like Ludo from Labyrinth. Sarah Ludo friend. Yeah. Great. Any other things of note?
No.
Well, then that's it for Fiend Without A Face from 58. Ended up being a double buy. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, it was Planet of the Vampires where we couldn't distinguish anybody.
Totally. Right. I don't know. They all have strong chins.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool, dude.
RecommenDEADtions?
Yes. You go. I got to think of this. What was it?
I've been meaning to watch this forever, Tim. The Talking Heads concert film Stop Making Sense. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
No.
God, I mean, like everyone's like, oh, you got to see it. You got to see it. I'm not even like huge on the Talking Heads or David Byrne or whatever. I think it's cool. I go in not phases, but listen when I get the urge or whatever. But it was so well done. This documentary is one of the Jonathan Demme. I believe, yeah, he must have made it. Jonathan Demme, concert films. He's done a lot of work with Neil Young on his concert films. But just like from the opening shot, there's something so cool, when it's done well, as far as making a film out of a concert experience. And it was just such a showstopper. Like this David Byrne's performance was very it exceeded my expectations, I thought. So you've probably heard
of it.
Yeah, you've if you were like me, you've probably been pressured to watch it before. Now that I've seen it, I'm just adding on that pressure. If you haven't seen it, Stop Making Sense.
Cool. So mine is it took me a really long time to actually come back around to this, because I watched the first 4 episodes like 3 separate times and couldn't get into it. And I asked my friend Shane, because he really loved the show, and I was like, am I just missing something or does it get better? And he was like, oh, episode 5 is where it actually really takes off. And I was like, fuck, okay. So I was like, should I just rewatch 1 through 4 again to reacquaint myself? He's like, no, why? Don't bother. Just start at 5. And I'm not recommending that you do that, but like just as a sort of context. From episode 5 on, I've been like, I can't stop watching the show. I mean, it's only 3 seasons, so whatever. But it's The Leftovers. And in particular, really more than anything, the story is cool and fun and whatever, but the acting in it is fucking incredible. So the lead dude is Justin Theroux. He's great. And he's kind of got that, if you watched Mad Men, there's sort of a similar character kind of problem where it's like, he's kind of, you know he's tortured and you just want him to be okay. And you know he's going to fuck it up. And that dynamic is so compelling to me for some reason. But so Justin Theroux, Carrie Coons is the I would say probably the female lead. She is, I don't know, man. If people don't know who she is, she was in the 2nd season of I'll think of it in a second. But anyway, she is fucking incredible. Oh, it's called The Sinner. She's ridiculous. Like some of the acting in it, similar to like, I think right now, her and Laura Linney And the third person who I was going to mention who's in The Leftovers, Regina King, who is the lead in the Watchmen TV series. They're out of this world. Like, their acting is fucking far beyond anything else that's going on that I've seen, at least. So, like, if you want a show that has, and there's other actors in it that are amazing. Scott Glenn is in it. He's amazing. Christopher Eccleston is in it. There's a bunch of people. Anyway, so it's amazing. The acting alone, it carries that show along. Even though the show is it's pretty depressing. It's about the rapture, so, like 20% of the world population just disappears one day.
Cool. The
or
Leftovers.
Maybe it's not 20%, it's like 2%. I don't know. Anyway.
The Leftovers.
Yeah, get into it. It's on HBO.
Well, can we figure out what we're going to get into next week?
Oh, yeah, if I could find the hat.
How do you lose it every week?
Well, I do stuff in here and I move things around. Here we go.
All right, the hat.
Is it my turn?
I feel like it is, but I don't know.
I feel like it is too, so we're going to do this one right here. Oh, sweet. I was wondering about this. Lodgers. It's on Netflix.
From what year? Recent,
2018, yeah.
All right. Great. A newer film after an older film.
Yeah. We'll see how they hold up against each other.
Great. Well, you should join us for The Lodgers next week.
No, it's just Lodgers.
Sorry. Well, you should join us for Lodgers. I'm already, it's already bugging me. Why do I want to say? I don't even know what they are. Who are the Lodgers? No, wait. It says right here, The Lodgers.
Oh, really? Well,
did you write
just
down?
Lodgers?
Well, that's wrong.
Okay.
You or me, whoever wrote that.
Right. Probably me. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's true. You're the one to go, don't eat it.
Yeah, whatever. I don't give a fuck.
So, all right. We'll be back
Francis
next
Q,
week. And right. All right. So for The Lodgers next week, until then, we ask if you enjoyed this, you should tell a friend, a like-minded horror fiend. That's the word I always use.
I know.
That's why we had to watch this movie. Great. Well, until The Lodgers, as I said, and in closing, we mean it. Thank you for listening.
And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.